Armageddon, annihilation, white-hot tentacles of doom spit fire, venom, screeching, help me, help me, help me, help me, ruination, devastation, apocalypse now.
That's a funny scene. Welcome, my creeps. Welcome, new peeps. Welcome to Super Fast Tortoise. And I'm doing a live of a deck. Figured it'd be interesting and new for me to do. And I think it'll be fun to get to chat. If anybody wants in, welcome. Welcome, Michael Superpacker. Welcome, Johnny. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming up. I know I said that all kind of weird. But I dressed the part today, put on the PlayStation hat for fun. And the Nintendo 64. For those who might not know, I think we're all old enough to know that if it wasn't for Nintendo 64, we wouldn't have a PlayStation. You know, because the deal with Nintendo and Sony falling apart the way it did. What's up, Superpacker? What's up? I can guess a lot of things, but I'm pretty sure I'd be wrong. I'm super fast because I was first in chat. Whoa, first in chat. Super fast. Super fast, Michael Superpacker. Yeah. Yes, so we're gonna do this deck tech because why not? Have fun. If anybody wants to jump in, they are more than welcome to ask, and if they're on Discord and I can send them a link, I will. So right now I'm breaking down the deck, trying to be more prepared for what I want to talk about. But you guys are awesome. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being amazing. Right, amazing. Yeah. Yeah, this deck already broken up into sections. Just need to sectionify it so I can just pick pieces up. Alright, we don't need a land right now. So, we're going to talk about Thraximundar, right? Thraximundar is one of my favorite old-time commanders. One of my favorite Grixis commanders. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Where are you? This is Thraximundar. Yes. Thraximundar. Let me see. Oh, it won't let me blow up the screen. Why not? Nope. Well, let me zoom in. Oh, there we go. So Thraximundar. Is a 4, 5, 6, 7 mana 6/6 legendary creature zombie assassin. He has haste. Whenever he attacks, defending player sacrifices a creature. Whenever a player sacrifices a creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on Thraximundar. Yeah. He's a pretty solid commander, but speaking in today's terms, like if you're thinking of today's terms, let me show you. Okay, so if we're speaking in today's terms, we are talking about a commander that is no longer super aggro. Like back in the day, this guy used to be super aggro. You know, really tough commander to play with. But he costs 7 mana for a 6/6. In today's terms, that's kind of hard. So he's aggressive, Like in his stats ability, he's aggressive and pretty awesome. His power and toughness is pretty decent for a 7 drop. But he doesn't do a lot for 7 mana. So what we need to build around is keeping the board state in our favor. Yes, we need to keep the board state in our favor for playing him. Stay Sorb. He is a tempo card. Yes. And the way I remedied his slowness, and it's going to sound weird, is I put in cards like Ravenous Rotbelly. When Ravenous Rotbelly comes into play, you can sacrifice up to 3 zombies, and each player or each opponent sacrifices creatures equal to the amount of zombies you sacrifice. We're running cards like Slum Reaper, that when he enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. We're running 1, 2, 3, and 4 variations of that ability. This Playcrafter card is pretty nuts, actually. If you don't know what he does, and I'm assuming you would, but if you don't know what he does, he's a 3-mana 3/2. When he enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker, and if a player can't, they discard a card. Just fun, does something no matter what. That's how he rolls. And on top of those 4 sacrifice abilities, and there's more going on into this that are different, we're running a Grave Pact and a Dictate of Erebos, which effectively do the same thing, just have different variations of the card. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature, so it helps mess with combat to keep the base up. Yeah, to keep the base up. Yeah, full value indeed. Thank you. So, not only do you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to sacrifice creatures, and with Ravenous Rotbelly, you can sacrifice him as one of the 3 zombies to get a creature all the time. And if you need to have a Grave Pact or a Dictate, or maybe both, we're increasing our value. Yes. Yes, indeed. Indubitably. And with this, I'm going into some of our removal section to kind of show you how to increase the chances. Like I'm running a Liliana of the Val in the deck because her abilities, sorry, I'm trying to get the light out. Her abilities lets each opponent discard a card, which is fine. Nothing to scoff at, but her -2 ability to have target player sacrifice a creature is really solid. We're running a Shieldred, and Shieldred is amazing. So 5 mana, 4/5 Menace. She comes to play. Target player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, which is solid. He gains more value. Then in this deck, to have an opponent to have 8 or more cards in their graveyard is not hard at all. Not really. And so if you want to pay to flip, the first ability of the saga she turns into is a kill spell. Then everything just gets sweeter from then on. It's pretty solid. Pretty solid. I think it's pretty great. These 2 cards are amazing. What can I say? Then we're running a Gix's Command. The Gix's Command costs 5 mana. It's a sorcery. And it says choose 2 of the abilities. And the one ability I choose the most on, like for sure, on this is the fact that you can have each opponent sacrifice a creature with the highest power among creatures that control them. Then the rest of the abilities on this card is just sauce, extra sauce that fits the theme. Gix's Command was actually a real solid command for a sorcery. Then one of my favorite cards from a long time ago, from a Lore Reborn block, Slave of Bolas. It steals a creature, then you sacrifice it. Yes. Yes, you steal a creature, you get a combat with it, and you get to sacrifice it, or you have to sacrifice it in turn. That's pretty nuts. Then the rest of the kill spells in the deck are just your generic kill spells, like we have a Hero's Downfall, a Terminate, Go for the throat. And cast down, yes. And you'll notice, like, go for the throat, destroy target non-artifact creature, and cast down destroys a non-legendary creature. With Thraximundar, playing Thraximundar, you're going to kill the weakest creature out there, so they have to sacrifice the powerful creature. In most cases, you know, because they're trying to keep up the board. This whole pile of cards right here, this whole pile of cards is to help keep the board in your favor. So, one thing, I'm going to separate this pile right here. Because this is important to note with this deck. And I've played this deck enough to understand the value engine going on. Let's drink some coffee. James Willis, welcome, welcome. Friends, what's up? No, I cannot afford a meat hook massacre. All right. Gem of Becoming is a nice artifact for grabbing 3 lands. Yes. Yes, you are. You're right. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures that come to play and make an opponent sacrifice a creature. And of course, some of them, you know, is each player, and a couple, one of them is target player. Oh no, it's each opponent sacrifices a creature. Oh, sweet. So, anyways. So you got 6 options, and in this deck, we run Arena Suite, right? And this deck's not built to be aggro aggressive, like super killer, but it's built to be competitive, you know, like for a casual game. And with this ability, with this knowledge, we have reanimator spells, right? And in these reanimator spells, we have Beacon of Unrest, which lets you pull an artifact or a creature from any graveyard. We have Rise from the Grave, which lets us pull a creature from any graveyard. We have Animate Dead, that lets us pull a creature from any graveyard. We have Reanimate, which lets us pull a creature from any graveyard. We have Liliana's Death Majesty, which I use her mostly to reanimate a creature from my graveyard, but she also makes 2/2 zombie tokens. We have Gravespawn Sovereign, and this card should not be overlooked. It is kind of a quirky card because it's 6 mana 3/3. But if you tap 5 zombies, you can reanimate a creature from any graveyard at instant speed. Then we run Cedrus Traitor King, just because, you know, I love this old style zombies block, you know. Like these two came from the same block. The Shards of Lore block. And Cedrus the Traitor King has Unearth, and if you don't know what Unearth is, it's an ability to cast a creature from the graveyard, and you have to exile it if it would leave play anywhere else, and it will exile at the end of turn. But he gives your creatures Unearth for 2 generic and a black, and it's pretty solid. If you watched my MTG3 a couple weeks ago, you understand why he's one of my favorites. And then Thraximundar was on that list only because I wanted to do a special on his deck. But the reanimation package here is not to pull out the biggest, beefiest creature out there in most cases, but it's actually to replay these Fleshbag Marauders, Playcrafters, and all these creatures that make everybody sack a creature, because it is pretty amazing. So it's basically doubling up on the board states removal to keep it tame while we wait to cast Thraximundar. Yes. And this is a zombie deck, all right? This is a zombie deck with those sacrifice creatures. Because I wanted some old school feel to this deck. Thanks to James for a couple of these cards, James Willis. We have like Soulless One, whose card toughness is equal to all the zombies in play and in all graveyards. We have Undead Augur, which he says when he or another zombie dies, each opponent loses. I lose a life and draw a card. We have Gethford of the Vault, just to be in flavor with all the fun stuff. Nice. All right, I just got your message, Andrew. But yeah, I'd love that. All right. So with those few zombies we saw, we have Liliana's Majesty, which is a lord, and we got a selection of lord. This is an enchantment that gives all your zombies +1/+1, and it comes into play with two black zombie creatures. We have Cleaver Scab, which is a whole different story. Let me get back to that. We have Undead Warchief, which gives all your zombies +2/+1, and makes your zombies cost 1 less to cast. We have Tomb Tyrant, gives all your zombies +1/+1, and you can sacrifice a creature to return a rando creature from the graveyard. We have Diagraph Captain, which gives all your creatures +1/+1. Whenever a zombie you control dies, target opponent loses 1 life. Lord of the Accursed says all zombies you control get +1/+1, and you can pay 2 to give all zombies menace until the turn, which is solid with Thrax. We have Cemetery Reaper, who gives all zombies you control +1/+1, and lets you exile a creature from a graveyard to create a 2/2 black zombie. We have Death Baron. Skeletons you control and other zombies you control get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. And Lord of the Undead, which says other zombies creatures get +1/+1. So this one actually affects the entire board, not just you. But you pay 2, you return a zombie card from your graveyard to your hand, letting us get some of those sacrificing creatures back. Now, the reason why this was in this pile of cards is because Cleaver Scab, because none of these cards here are legendary. And that's an enchantment, so that doesn't count. So Cleaver Scab has an ability where you pay 3 mana, you sacrifice another zombie, create 2 tokens that are copies of the sacrificed creature, right? And so, like, the ideal thing, I'm not going to show Undead or Chief for this, but like, say you have Death Baron out, and you use this ability to sacrifice another creature, saying Death Baron is your target. You sacrifice Death Baron, and you get 2 tokens of Death Baron, creating this zombie over here to get +2/+2 and all the affiliated abilities, which is solid. So that's why Cleaver Scab's in the deck. He came in a Precon, the Decayed Precon deck, and that deck had some solid cards in it. And it was a very cheap deck. So if you can find that Decayed deck, it is good for parts. Then a random zombie we have in here, back from the Shards of Laura block. Thank you, James. A lot of lords. Yep. Deathbringer Thoctor, 6 mana, 3/3. When another creature dies, you may put a 1/1 counter on Deathbringer Thoctor. So, when you play your sacrifice creatures, you can put a +1 counter on them whenever a creature dies. Then at any speed, instant speed, you can remove any amount of +1 counters on him to deal X amount of damage equal to the counters removed to a creature or player. Excuse me. So that is a solid removal. We're running some fun cards in here, like this, like the random mix. Mirkwood Bats, if you have a bunch of making token cards, explosive, yeah, that'd be nice. But Mirkwood, this deck doesn't focus on making tokens, but there are good tokens in here. I see what you mean. So we're running Obnixilis Reignited. Yes. I like to run him for his draw ability and his ability to destroy target creature. He is a fun card. I never care about the ultimates on Planeswalkers because they're always a pipe dream and you never get to them. But thanks to Prime 406 Games and winning this card out of a pack, was Prime 406 Games' fault that I own this card. We got Jace the Mind Sculptor in the deck. Now, Jace the Mind Sculptor, I would like to use him for his Brainstorm effect right here. But he bounces a creature, or he can look at the top card of the target player's library and put it at the bottom of that player's library, which is nice. So he top decks, fixes your draws, he lets you draw, he returns a creature to its owner's hand, and his ultimate we don't really worry about. Yay, Jace! As you can tell, my favorite Planeswalker. I don't even know if the poor guy's living anymore. Then we got Corpse Augur. This guy is kind of like a weak zombie in the deck, but he does push weight sometimes. He costs 4 mana for 4/2. When Corpse Augur dies, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of cards in target player's graveyard. So this guy can be a blowout draw spell. He can draw you some really cards, or help you lose some heat, or not be so hot. Like, he can draw you little. But he's always pushing at least like 2-3 cards. And we're running a Phyrexian Arena, thanks to James Willis, for sure. James Willis actually helped build this deck. He just doesn't know it. That's right. Just keep Prime away from Jace. We're running Monastery Siege. I use it for the cons ability, because there's 2 abilities where you can say spells on your opponents cast cost 2 more to target if your opponents to target them. But I like the cons ability where at the beginning of your upkeep you draw an additional card that you just cut a card. It's pretty solid. Then now this is a hard card to play with, but I need the draw power in it, and I can't afford the super cool ones. But this one actually pushes a lot until you're dead. We're running a Dark Tutelage. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card in your hand. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. As you can see, a number of the cards in this deck have converted mana cost 3. So you're taking a lot of 3 damages compared to lands. Then we got, thanks to Gangrid and North Ogden, Utah, we have Sensei's Divining Top in the deck. This is a played one because I got it cheapest for the cheapest amount. Got a played one. Sensei's Divining Top. I'm pretty sure you know what that does, but it's pretty solid to have early game if you get it. But you never really complain if you get a late game to help you draw into the cards you really need. Now, here's a Lord kind of card. But I put him with a draw section. Is Hordewing Scab. Hordewing Scab costs 5 mana. He's a 3/3. He has flying. Says other zombies you control have flying. I've actually won games with this card alone with a lot of tokens. So, you know, he's a lord by giving creatures flying, but whenever one or more zombies you control deal combat damage to one or more of your opponents, you may draw cards equal to the number of opponents dealt damage this way. If you do, discard a card. So he lets you draw a card off dealing combat damage, which is pretty solid. Now, we got 2 mass reanimator spells. We got Zombie Apocalypse, which returns all zombie cards from your graveyard to the battlefield and destroy all humans, which the humans part doesn't always really matter, but getting all your zombies back is solid. Flying dead people, that's right. Then thanks to Prime 406 Games, we got a Patriarch's Bidding in this deck. 5 mana, sorcery. This one is a board, works on the board. Each player chooses a creature type. It returns all cards of the chosen type from the graveyard to the battlefield, which this card could be nuts, especially in this deck. But, you know, it's just good. This is a card I reserve till I know I really need it when I'm playing a game. So I won't just play this off the whim, because some cards are overpowering if someone's milling themselves out, like my dinosaur deck, to get creatures back on the graveyard. Then we got 3 board wipes. We got Ingrick's Wake. Destroys all creatures and planeswalkers you don't control. You got Aether Spats to stop a large attacking force from an opponent. For each attacking creature, and its owner puts it on top or bottom of their library. And we got Damnation. Dun, 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 dun. Thanks, Prime 406. You are amazing. Another card from him. Then out of the Decayed Commander deck that I was telling you about, we have Rooftop Storm, which makes your zombies cost 0, which helps a lot with the commander. Then we're casting in the game Endless Ranks of the Dead. At the beginning of your upkeep, you create X2 black zombie creature tokens, where X is half the number of zombies you control. This can be a powerhouse, but not always. Then we're running Quandary just because I pulled that out of a pack and had to play this in a deck. If you don't know what Painful Quandary does, it's a 5 mana enchantment. It says whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. We have Midnight Reaper, which says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you, and you draw a card. Then here we got Liliana Standard Bear. Has Flash, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw X cards, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. That died under your control this turn. So, that can help a big against my disposition. Then a fun card that came out of the Decayed deck. It's a reprint, but it came out of the Decayed deck. Is Army of the Damned. I've actually won a game with this and the zombie that gives all my tokens flying, or all my creatures flying. For 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, you get 13 tag zombie creature tokens, and it has flashback. Pretty solid. Then the rest of the cards here are just casual helps. We're running the obligatory Lightning Greaves. We're running Swiftfoot Boots for not haste engines, more for protection. But, you know, the haste is fine when you play a big creature. Then for mana fixing, we have Chromatic Lantern, Arcane Signet, Talisman of Creativity, Talisman of Dominance, and Soul Ring. Woo-hoo. Yeah, James Willis, thank you for this talisman. You're awesome. This deck would be perfect without it. Then the lands, we'll just kind of scoop by the lands because, you know, not all of it's important. But, you know, you want to see lands. And now I'll get to the deck on the webpage to kind of talk more about the deck there. But this is more to just kind of show you how the fixing is. I need a Xander's Lounge, the Grixis colored trifecta mana land for it. Yeah, the land that's like this, but has the 3 land. I just need a duplicate version of this card, basically. Creeping Tar Pit, Command Tower, Chickabog. And that was the lands. Let's see. I mean, that deck is pretty nuts, right? Like, this deck is fairly aggressive, and it plays well. I've played it multiple times. Thraximundar is solid, and I'm just going to take a break from looking at cards for a second, just kind of relax, get back in the moment. Then I'm going to go to tappedout.net so we can look at the deck list and talk about the power level and everything. Whew, you guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out. We've had a solid 3 to 4 streamers the whole thing. No, this hat's old. I wear my Steelers hat most of the time, but since I'm wearing the Nintendo 64 shirt, I want to wear the PlayStation hat. My dad gifted me this hat from California. Yeah. You guys make this show rock. Yeah, boy. All right. So, as I'm mellowing out, how's your day? How are you guys doing? Had a good day? Rough day? I would like to know. You know, parts of me want to know, how do you like the thumbnail? Boom. James, you missed my conversation about it. It's not really conflicting. Nintendo 64, right? Just, I don't know if you know the whole story, but Nintendo was in dealings with Sony to create a CD attachment for the Super Nintendo. But Nintendo chickened out and backed out and went with Philips to make the Nintendo 64. Then PlayStation already had this almost a console ready, forced themselves to finish it and make a console, the PlayStation. And ended up creating this system that was awesome and beating Nintendo at their own game of video games. So if it wasn't for the Nintendo 64, PlayStation would not be around. Thank you. Thank you. Stay sword. Yeah. All right. Enjoy the Canadian holiday, Canada Day. Nice. Enjoy it. I hope you're all safe. I don't know. I haven't heard anything on it, but I know the fires up there are not fun. So if you're in Canada, stay safe. I hope the air quality gets better for you. Sorry, I'm just kind of praying in my head about it. All right. I'm going to get to the deck. So here's the deck, right? So, here's the list. It's a 33% casual deck, as you can see over here on the left where the blue line is, and the orange line. The orange line shows its competitive rating, which is 67%. You can see the mana curve is pretty good, like the bulk of the mana cost. And the second biggest rank of mana cost is 5. So once we get to 5 mana, we can pretty much play anything in the deck, except for the very few cards. The deck is worth $291 at the moment to $323 on Card Kingdom. But on TCG Player, which is where I would recommend buying this deck, if you want to buy it all together without changing anything, it is $226 to $257 for this entire deck, which is a good deal. And no, why not? I'm just gonna upvote this because it's my deck. Ta-da-da! You can see the color basis is pretty evened out. There's a little less red than there's blue when it comes to the pips, right? But the symbols are all there. And here it shows a trace of the land. I think we're running. Let me double count really quick because this is important for the deck. It's important for you to know because when you're building command bases for commander decks, you really want to adjust numbers to fit the deck specifically. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Yes, we have 38 lands in this deck. And that's so we don't miss a land drop. And then we have, if you have to know where we go to lands, we got 3 islands, 3 swamps. Yes. And we got 3 mountains in the deck. And everything else is land fixing. You started with Pong back in the day. Nice. Nice. I remember Pong. Then talking about all this fun jazz. You can say we're running 24 creatures, which is a decent amount for a commander deck. We're only running 8 artifacts. We're running tons of sorcery. 10 sorcery, 10 enchantments, which is actually pretty solid. We're running 4 planeswalker. 4 planeswalker. I counted the lands, but I could have just showed you up here. 38 lands, but I want to be for sure. Running 5 instants. Most removal spells. Yes. Look, we're back. So, what I want to do is explain that this deck is very pre-con-ish. Like a bulk of this deck actually came from a pre-con originally as I upgraded it. The Decayed pre-con. I just didn't really put too much Decayed into it. The one Decayed card I had in it, I took out, which was a draw spell. It was that 4 mana legendary creature who makes a 2/2 Decayed zombie if a zombie died that didn't have Decayed. and at the end of your turn, you can sacrifice a zombie to draw a card. I took that out, put in Dark Tutelage over it because it was actually more effective. It was guaranteed not losing a creature and drawing a card. This deck is pretty solid in general. Like, this deck is EV. This is easy enough to navigate for a new player. Like, a new player can pick up this deck right here, and with little explanation, you can explain to them how to play it. Very well more effective player. Oh wow, that's the wrong wording, isn't it? a more in-tune player, a more seasoned player can play this deck very well, like, and take it places. Very little upgrading, whatnot. Pretty solid. It is pretty amazing. It is pretty cool, pretty solid. Like, not to toot my own horn. Stasis Orb, if you're still watching, I'm gonna give a shout out to Stasis Orb. I know a lot of you are new to Stasis Orb, but Stasis Orb is a long-time friend of mine. I haven't seen him for over 10 years, or around 10 years. But he's a long-time friend of mine, and he helped me learn Magic better. He helped me become a better player. I've talked to James about this before, a little, but Stasis Orb's name is Andrew. I'm not gonna give his last name away, but like, Andrew and I were best friends for a long time, but we got into Magic together. We used to do Magic all the time together, and me and him used to bounce off each other, but Andrew became a better player, and I became good at building decks, but I was actually a good deck builder, but I was a bad player. Like, I built the mono green deck back in the day, and Andrew had to show me how to play it. Right? And so when Andrew and I first started building a cube, and I know this is not about cubing, but Andrew and I started building a cube. We built like it was a bad cube, all right, like compared to now. And later on, Andrew built a really good cube, and I got to play it a couple times. Like, I had more to play it, but I didn't know how to feel about cube, and I always felt weird about it. But Andrew built a really good cube, and I got to play it a couple times, learn the synergies. Then Andrew started getting into Commander a bit, and the timelines here are mixed up. But Andrew got into Commander a bit, and he started building good decks. And at this time, I wasn't into Commander. Andrew got out of Commander as I got into Commander, and Andrew got more into Cube. That's the timeline. And so he built a really good cube, and I, at the same time, when he built this really good cube, I built a very sloppy cube trying to learn things. Then when I moved away from Utah and had the chance to build a cube, I started thinking back of all the cards Andrew liked, and there were great cards like Liliana the Veil, which, by the way, Andrew, Liliana the Veil sucks in limited. All right, she sucks in limited oh man, I mean, she's not horrible, but she's not as powerful as I thought she was. But limited, man, I wish I was in Utah when I got into limited heavy, because I got limited heavy here when I first moved up here. Limited, best way to play Magic. Cube, the finite way of having a good time is playing a cube fully loaded, like full players, and just having a blast. Everybody gets to see the list. Everybody does it. But anyways, sidetracked. So the way Andrew built his cube, and he actually built a couple Commander decks to play against me in Commander out of his cube. And that started teaching me to look at certain cards different ways. This time I had a mindset that cards are worth money and must be good, and I can't afford those cards. So I just felt kind of bleh at the moment. But anyways, going further, I learned through playing Limited a lot, Singleton a lot, or I should say, because Limited's a lot of and then Limited, you get more of a spectrum of a power level of cards that you normally wouldn't play, like in Standard. Some cards are just bad in Standard, but they're in a Singleton format. And when I started building my cube, my precious cube. When I started building my precious cube, my 720, I started mimicking thoughts, and I started mimicking Andrew's thoughts on cube, and started thinking about how he looked at cube. And my child and his friends got into Commander when I was building this cube, so I had to start thinking about Commander, and I started building Commander decks like mini cubes, and that just pushed my game from down here to up there. Yeah. So if you think of a Commander deck as a mini cube, you really can get a good spectrum of the power level that you're messing with, because they're both Singleton formats, and you can and it lets you see the draw, the removal, the board wipes, the flyers, the evasive creatures, the mana ramp a lot better. Like if you ever build a cube, just try building a 100-card cube and try to make it function and play it as a Commander deck. Oh yeah, there are strong cards in every color. Stasis Orb, for sure. Like just a lot of cards don't get played in Standard because one color is like OP in Standard most of the time. Maybe two colors or two decks are the strongest, so people don't play them as much. Limited really fleshes out the power level of cards. You're right. That was a big detour for those watching a Commander deck tech, but at least we got past the deck tech to get here, right? Woo! So exciting, man. This was fun. Right? Thraximundar. And anybody can ask Andrew or Stasis Orb. You can always ask him. I always love the jank cards. I'd find a card and he'll be like, that card's jank. And I'd build a deck around it. And sometimes my decks would win. Like, there's this card, Horizon Chimera, who's I'm a Timmy player for sure. Two generic, a green and a blue. And whenever you draw a card, you get a life. Then there's Sumbond, which is an enchantment aura that's white, that says whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on an enchanted creature. Then I had Fathom Mage, which says whenever a +1/+1 counter. Oh, it's a Fathom Mage 4 mana, by the way. So this is a 16 mana investment. Fathom Mage, which says when you put a +1/+1 counter, you draw a card. And one time I took Horizon Chimera, Sunbond on Fathom Mage, and would draw out my entire deck to win, just for the giggles of it. Then there's that stupid Sphinx I played because it's actually good in this deck. So the Sphinx that says you can discard 2 cards with the same name and draw 4 cards. And I was running this in a janky built turbo deck. I won a couple games. I'd lose a lot, but I always explode before I lost. Like in the game, I'd explode like this big old creature and I'd die. I didn't care. I had fun. I played the card I wanted to. Oh, man. But one of my fondest memories with Andrew here was when we were in Job Corps together, and we had purchased Ravnica boxes because Ravnica was the set we both got into. Time Capsule, what's up? We'd actually buy boxes, and we ended up buying like 12 boxes of Ravnica, like in a couple months' time. And we were like, dude, we got so many cards because we only had storage locker space so big. And we were like, we got cards, and we loved building decks, man. Andrew and I were building decks like fiends. And we're like, well, why don't we turn around, make decks playable, and sell them to friends? And so we started building decks and selling them to friends. And we were selling them out of count. Even for back then, we were selling full 60 card standard decks for $12 to $20. And we didn't care about the value of the card. We just loved building those decks. Oh man. Great times. Great times. Then like filter out and thought distortion as a janky non-online creature, board wipe and Grix. Oh yeah. And so is there's a spell, I can't remember the name of it. It has a hefty mana cost. Destroys all enchantments. But it is a spell. No. It turns all permanents into enchantments. And there's a white spell from Future Sight, which can be cast for free as long as you cast a white spell. And the spell is just talking about has white in its mana cost. Can be cast for free if you cast a white spell before it and destroy all enchantments. So it was a fun board wipe back in the day. Yes, we got people involved, man. You and I had a way of getting people involved in Magic, even when we were living on our own and we lived in Ogden. We were always trying to get people involved learning the game. Like one of my favorite solo memories was when we were at pre-release, and we were pre-release on our own times, doing our own things. And I had a bad janky deck because I pulled Battle of Wits like crazy. Battle of Wits is horrible and limited, like in Sealed. And I got tired. Dude, Dean got so mad. So I got so tired of by turn one. I had a couple commander decks ready, and I had 3 commander decks at a time. And during games, for each game, come up to me ready to play me because I was on the roster, and I told them, "Hey, let's play a game of Commander." And I told the person, if you do play a game of Commander, you can go up right now, take the win for this turn, 2-0. Don't care. You can fabricate how many times you lost or won, but 2-0 if you want. Let's just play a game Commander. Well, apparently, out of all the 4 people I played with that night, it boosted up Commander cells for Game Grid. And I didn't know. Well, I walked in and Jamie, the owner of Game Grid, just talking about how ever since I did this, gave people the wins. I didn't know he realized I did that. He knew I did it, apparently. And he's talking about how people bought all these Commander decks, these products, and play mats, and some sleeves. They got them all hyped up and involved in a new format. One of my favorite memories, I got a Commander community accidentally started in our local game store in that area. Oh, yeah. Yeah, boy. Sorry, I'm looking at a comment. Yeah, there you go. Kind of heart and like a comment on a short. So it was awesome. It was awesome. And right now we're just kind of goofing off because the deck's already been done. But yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think. So I'll get back to you, Andrew, with your message because I would really like that. But I'm gonna have to actually log off soon. Well, I'm gonna get off the live now, so the video's not too long. It's been on for 48 minutes, and I want people to actually watch the video. Then I'm gonna talk to my friend Jay. James. Just for fun. Alright. Because he knows what I do. You guys are awesome. Have a good night. Thanks for tagging along my creep. Always welcome new peeps into the creep. Have fun. Play wise. Play wise. Yes.